I'm Andrea Gunning, host of the all-new podcast, There and Gone. It's a real-life story of two people who left a crowded Philadelphia bar, walked to their truck, and vanished.
A truck and two people just don't disappear.
The FBI called it murder for hire. But which victim was the intended target and why? Listen to There and Gone South Street on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Guys, we are back. We are so excited. It is season 2 of your favorite New Girl Rewatch podcast. We have got a new season. We got a new name. We've got some of your favorite people from the New Girl universe. We've got the creator and showrunner, Liz Merriweather. We got the Max Greenfield, Olivia Munn.
We also have some of your least favorites, like Jake Johnson.
Lamorne.
Hannah, what's up?
We do have Jake Johnson, though.
Yeah. Listen to The Mess Around on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
We all know what that music means. It's time for the Olympics in Paris.
I'm Matt Rogers.
And I'm Bowen Yang.
And we're doing an Olympics podcast? Yeah. We're hosting the Two Guys, Five Rings podcast. Watch every moment of the 2024 Paris Olympics beginning July 26th on NBC and Peacock. And for the first time, you can stream the 2024 Paris Games on the iHeartRadio app. And listen to Two Guys, Five Rings on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Episode 421, this couple's crazy side hustles led to paying off $60,000 of debt in 2 years.
Welcome to the Frugal Friends podcast, where you'll learn to save money, embrace simplicity, and live a richer life. Here are your hosts, Jen and Jill.
Welcome to the Frugal Friends podcast. My name is Jen.
My name is Jill.
And it's
Debt-Free Summer.
We are coming to you with another episode of a listener just like you who paid off debt and decided to celebrate with us, to talk about it with us and celebrate it with us.
Yeah, we recorded these episodes, really debt-free stories, a couple years ago.
Year and a half ago.
For the YouTube channel, so you can see it. But now we're re-airing them because we love hearing debt payoff stories from normal people. We know you love it too. And why not have a debt-free summer to encourage yourself along the way?
Yeah, and we got updates from all our participants, and we have more insight about their stories and their methods that we want to share after. So, but first, this episode is brought to you by referrals. You have something that you love and you want to share it with people, but you want to be rewarded for it. And that's why there are referrals. And we have something similar with the Friendletter. It's a referral program. And we just got brand new mugs for our referral program.
Ooh,
so when you
yeah.
refer one friend to sign up for the Friendletter and they actually do it, you get stickers. When you refer 5 friends, you get a grocery tote that says Frugal, Not Cheap. And when you refer 10 friends that sign up, and here's the kicker,
What do you get?
when they sign up, they have to click that confirm subscription so we know it's a real person that you've referred. You get a mug. And it says Frugal AF. It is so fun.
And my standard for a good mug is that all 4 of my fingers can fit into the handle. And it is one of those mugs.
It is one of those mugs. It's not like your standard, I got this mug, like this is a print on demand, like cheap mug. This is a beautiful mug.
Frugal, not cheap.
Like it's like partly dipped, so the bottom is like rough. Like,
look at us talking about this mug. And the only way to get it is by referring 10 people.
You cannot buy this mug. You must refer 10 friends to sign up for the Friendletter. Frugalfriendspodcast.com if you are not already getting the Friendletter. But if you are, at the bottom of every Friendletter, we have a little section that tells you how close you are to each referral reward.
If these debt-free stories and a debt-free summer is exactly what you need, feel free to queue up other episodes like episode 419, where Tina's sharing her story of paying off $170,000 of debt. We've got episode 356, Frugal Side Hustle, Airbnb rooms and co-hosting. Episode 320 is another side hustle episode about bookkeeping. Episode 308 is another side hustle about virtual assistant, being a virtual assistant. And all of this is because it's related to this episode where side hustles were the way that this couple paid off their debt. And so if it really inspires you to try and find ways to increase your income, not just cut expenses, then those are going to be the best ones to queue up after.
Yeah, you can actually head to frugalfriendspodcast.com/episodes. And if you in the search box type in Frugal Side Hustle, then you'll see all of our Frugal Side Hustles in that series. They're all side hustles that you can make legitimate money by working on the side, but also potentially could grow into more, whether through skills you have accumulated, or it could just turn into a full-time business. There's nothing in there like dog walking or delivering Uber Eats or anything like that. We were really intentional with the side hustles that we chose for this series. So definitely head to our website and search for the Frugal Side Hustles because they are so, so good. But Jason and his wife did a lot of side hustles. And maybe you don't want to take it as extreme as them, but I think it's beneficial to hear their story and then kind of decide for yourself, or maybe be encouraged if that is something that you're doing.
Yeah, we're excited to get into this story. They paid off $60,000 in 2 years, and how they did it, some of the crazy ways of finding some extra money, what they cut, how they got rid of extra stuff and lived more intentionally. So let's get into it. And we are so excited to share another debt-free story with you from Jason. Jason, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me. And I just hope that something that I say helps others learn something as they journey toward debt freedom.
Awesome. Okay, Jason, so tell us a little bit about you, your family, and what life was like when you started your debt-free journey.
Oh, sure. So currently I'm living in Atlanta, Georgia. I have a wife of 10 years and we have 2 young boys. We have a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old and one on the way. So we're about to have 3 boys actually. So our family's growing. So actually for you, I actually have 2 debt-free stories. So my first story was when I was single. And I got married later in life. I got married when I was 36. So when I was single out on my own, young 20s, I didn't know anything about money. I didn't know anything about financial literacy or anything. And I got myself into a lot of credit card debt. And to put it into perspective, I had amassed $13,500 in credit card debt. Well, some people might not think that sounds like, oh, that's not too bad. That's manageable. But when I tell you I was making $23,000 a year at my annual salary, that's a problem. That's a big problem. So what happened was I was just using the credit card for everything, every single purchase, groceries, gas, clothes, everything. I just used the credit card. And, you get behind and, next thing you know, those monthly interest rates, start piling up. And I just kind of woke up one day and I realized that, I'm not doing life right. Something's wrong. Like this isn't, I shouldn't be living like this. So I started self-educating myself. I started diving into, books and resources, websites, podcasts, like what you guys do. And the first thing I remember doing was I went down to the local bookstore. And, that's when I kind of discovered Dave Ramsey's books and, Clark Howard is another big one. And I started listening to their radio shows and I started paying attention to, anything money related. So I just started, diving into all that and just trying to teach myself, what can I do to, reverse this, get out of this debt. So the first thing I did was I stopped using credit cards altogether. Cause that for me, I was like, there's no way I'm ever going to pay this off if I keep using it. So I stopped using the credit cards. I actually put those credit cards in the back of my sock drawer. I hid them for myself, and I eventually, paid that off. I gave myself the goal of 1 year. I said, I want to pay this off in 1 year. So I actually fell short. I did it in 13 months. So in 13 months, I paid off all those credit card, bills. And I haven't used a credit card since. I haven't. So that was over 20 years ago. So I have not used a credit card in over 20 years. And I actually had a Discover card. But they actually canceled on me because I never used it. So I actually called about it one day and I said, hey, I was checking on this card. It's like, oh, we actually canceled your account. And I said, oh, you did? What happened? Did it get hacked or something? No, we canceled it for, non-use. I said, oh, I didn't even know you guys did that. They just cancel it. They don't tell you. They don't send you a letter. They don't send you an email. Just, I was like, thank God I didn't try to use that credit card. If it was like an emergency or something, and it was just no good. They just canceled it, didn't tell me. So that was pretty interesting phone conversation. But that's my first story. So that's when I was single. So.
Yeah. So what about the second story?
Yeah, my second story is probably a little more entertaining for the audience. So I got married a little bit later. So this is about probably 10 years later after my first debt-free journey. I met my wife. We got married. So when I met my wife, she actually had $60,000 of student loan debt when we got married, and then she also had like consumer credit. She had like credit cards. She had a car loan. She had, a lot of like the little, Kohl's, Target cards, the department store cards. So she had a lot of debt, and it totaled up to around 60 grand of debt.
Wow, that's great. So what did you and your wife do to get started with paying off that $60,000?
So what we did was I basically told her the story I just told you about, hey, this is what happened to me, how I got out of debt. So we kind of like worked together and created a plan. And the first 2 years of our marriage, we made major sacrifices. And we were only making a combined $60,000 total household income, and we paid off all of her debt in 2 years. So her goal, she was 28 years old, and she made a very aggressive goal of, I want to be debt free by my 30th birthday, and she was able to pull that off. Now, I will tell you, we were very aggressive on trying to pay off this debt. We did a lot of crazy things, I thought, at the time, just to make extra money. So some of the things, some might not sound crazy, but I'll tell you the craziest thing we did. So, she was a nanny at the time. So she took extra nanny jobs. She took extra babysitting jobs, stuff like that, to make extra money. Me, I started taking, manual labor jobs, little side jobs, like, helping people move, stuff like that, where people just need a little help, like with manual labor, warehouse type stuff. I did that. Of course, we saved any, tax return money, any, Christmas, birthday money, any extra money we got, we just put it toward the debt. And then we started aggressively selling things online. eBay and Craigslist were the two big ones at the time that we were really successful with, just selling, anything and everything, that we didn't need or didn't want, or, stuff that we would flip. We would do that, and we did really, really well with that. And then another thing we did was, of course, along the same lines, we did a lot of garage sales. We that was kind of tricky because I remember we scheduled so many yard sales and then it rained. So that's the trick with the yard sale. I was like, yeah, if we had an indoor venue for a garage sale, that would be ideal, because then you don't have to worry about the weather. But another thing that we did that was really super successful was we started doing all these like focus groups, or, they're called like marketing studies, focus groups. And, it would just be something like, hey, a taste test, like a food taste test. Come in and it's 30 minutes and you're testing food for a restaurant. And then they're going to walk out there and they're going to give you a check for whatever, $50, $100. Sometimes they pay in gift cards, but the ones that pay the money are good. So we actually did, over about 2 years, like both of us combined, we made $8,000 just that. So that was, all this is extra money toward the debt. Now I'm going to tell you the craziest thing we did. When you look back, it was so stupid. So my wife had a pretty bad Diet Coke addiction, and she was drinking all these Diet Coke cans, and I saw all these Coke cans laying around the house, and I was like, you know what? what if we started saving these cans? We just take it down the recycling center and they pay us, for the aluminum cans. So we started saving these cans, and we were saving cans and taking big trash bags of cans down there. And I remember we went on a beach trip down to Florida, and we walked around the beach. When everyone had left, we walked around the beach just picking up cans. Like, because people throw their trash. We're picking up cans, and saving cans. Everywhere we saw a can, we pick it up and save it. And I am embarrassed to say, I don't even know how many hours we did collecting cans, but we made about $120 doing this. That was the biggest waste of time. So I had no idea how little they would pay you for aluminum cans. But that just shows you how we were so laser focused on, we just hated debt. We were so laser focused on getting out of that debt. And when we first got married, this probably happens to anybody who gets married. The top two questions you're going to be asked by all your family and friends, sometimes before you even get married. Oh, when are you guys going to have kids? That's the first question. And then the other one is, when are you guys going to buy a house? So those are the top two questions we just got inundated with, and we just got kind of annoyed with. And we would always fire back, not until we get out of debt. Not until we get out of debt. We're paying off our debt first. And then we can think about starting a family. We could think about, buying a house, whatever. So that's what we did. Not everybody has that time window. I understand that to put off kids or put off, a major purchase, but we had that window of time, and it really allowed us to pay off that debt. And, it's changed our life. It's changed the trajectory of our financial future. And now we have young kids, and we're teaching them, basically, all the mistakes that we made. We're trying to help them avoid those mistakes.
I'm Andrea Gunning, host of the all-new podcast, There and Gone. It's a real-life story of two people who left a crowded Philadelphia bar, walked to their truck, and vanished.
Nobody hears anything. Nobody sees anything.
Did they run away? Was it an accident? Or were they murdered?
A truck and two people just don't disappear.
The FBI called it murder for hire.
It was definitely murder for hire for Danielle, not for Richard.
He's your son, and in your eyes, he's innocent. But in my eyes, he's just some guy my sister was with.
In this series, I dig into my own investigation to find answers for the families and get justice for Richard and Danielle. All that I know. Listen to There and Gone South Street on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
We all know what that music means. Is somebody getting coronated? No, it's time for the Olympics in Paris.
The opening ceremony for the 2024 Paris Games is coming on July 26.
Who are these athletes? When are the games they're playing? You may be looking for the sports experts to answer those questions, but we're not that.
Well, what are we? We're two guys. I'm Matt Rogers.
And I'm Bowen Yang.
And we're doing an Olympics podcast? Yeah. We're hosting the Two Guys, Five Rings podcast.
You get the two guys, us, to start every podcast, then the five rings come after.
Watch every moment of the 2024 Paris Olympics beginning July 26th on NBC and Peacock. And for the first time, you can stream the 2024 Paris Games on the iHeartRadio app. And listen to Two Guys, Five Rings on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Babe.
Yeah, babe.
Do you think they can hear us?
Yeah, those are mics.
Guys, we are back. We are so excited. It is season 2 of your favorite New Girl Rewatch podcast. We have got a new season, we got a new name, and we got a brand new episode every week starting July 2nd.
Yeah, I am so excited for you folks to check out this mess around. When I say it's going to get weird, I mean, it's going to get
Just
weird.
okay, save it for the show.
Okay, that's probably for the best.
We've got some of your favorite people from the New Girl universe. We've got the creator and showrunner, Liz Merriweather. We got the Max Greenfield, Olivia Munn.
We also have some of your least favorites, like Jake Johnson.
Lamorne.
No, I'm just saying, like, if you're listing off your favorites, like, he's still a favorite. He just, Hannah, what's up?
We do have Jake Johnson, though.
Yeah. Listen to the mess around on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Now that you've got this perspective, having paid off the debt that you've paid off and being able to say, you know, some things were really great and lucrative and really helped us, but other things were just silly and a waste of time. So as you look back on kind of how you went about it, would you have changed anything?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And not, you know, I'm just thinking about, and I've seen this not only in myself, but other friends as well, who've aggressively paid off like hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt versus, you know, our 60,000. But what I would say is that kind of looking back on it is we were so aggressive and so laser focused, like you said. And then once you reach that goal of finally paying off that debt, you're kind of like, you don't know what to do next. You're like, now what? Like, what do we do? Like, how, you know, what happens now? Like, well, now is the whole rest of your life ahead of you. Now it actually, what I'm trying to say is now it actually gets harder because now you have to stay out of debt. You've paid off the debt and you've worked your butt off for 2 years like you, or 2 years like me, or maybe, you know, 5 years, whatever your story is. But then now it's like, okay, I want to stay out of debt. So now what do I do? So, but you kind of have to take your foot off the gas pedal a little bit because you're going to burn yourself out, I guess. So I guess the answer is, when I'm looking back, I would just say maybe not have so much anxiety or panic over it. Because if you have a plan in place, if you've created a budget, if you've created, you know, goals for yourself and objectives, you know you're going to get through it. You know you're going to pay it off. And if it's, you know, if your goal is 1 year and it ends up being 2 years, you know, that's okay. Like, it's not the end of the world because life happens to all of us. And that's the biggest thing is, you know, the unexpected expenses are going to happen. So I would just say, you know, don't kill yourself trying to make an aggressive goal of getting out of debt, because once you do it, it's kind of like, you know, it's almost like a letdown, I guess. It's hard to describe. It's kind of like, you know, like, now what?
I call it the debt payoff hangover.
Yeah, hangover. That's a good word. Perfect. That's a good, yes, that's the perfect word.
When you are so aggressively drunk on your goals and then you accomplish them, it's a hangover.
Yes, I would agree with that. So yeah, it's kind of a weird moment to be in, I guess, because you're just kind of like, okay, now what?
Yes. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about income. You said you started at 60,000. You had that 8,000 from side hustles. Is there anything else you added to increase your income over those 2 years?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that because I forgot to mention that in my first debt-free story was some of the extra things I did to make income. So when I was single, some things I did to make extra money in addition to my then $23,000 a year salary was I was living in a 2-bedroom condo by myself. So I actually rented out the other room to a friend. So I was charging him $650 a month. So that's extra $7,800 a year in rental income that I made. And then at the time I was working in the sports field. So I was actually picking up all these part-time, you know, maybe game works situations. So I actually got a job with the Atlanta Braves, scoring their games, and they paid me $100 a game. So I would work about 40 games a year. So that's $4,000 extra a year. And then the other thing I did, because I was fortunate to be in the sports world, and I I guess had access to sports executives. I started getting into the ticket flipping business, and that just kind of goes back to the eBay stuff. So I would get access to like large sporting events. Now I never got Super Bowl tickets, but I did get in Atlanta. They've hosted the NCAA men's basketball Final Four. The Final Four, they've hosted it in Atlanta several times. And 2 times I was actually able to buy tickets at face value, and then I would just flip them. I just put them on eBay. And I remember the one of the biggest ones I did was I bought 2 like booklets of tickets. So there's 3 games. So you get 2 tickets to all 3 games of the Final Four. And it was like $250 face value. I put them on eBay and just put it in the auction format, and they ended up selling for $1,500. So I remember that day vividly. I took that money and I had a rooms to go credit card because I just bought furniture for my house. And I just literally went to the bank and paid off that entire credit card, that rooms to go credit card, just by making that one sale. So that was a big day for me, getting that debt off my chest. So yeah, I did a lot of things like that just to kind of make extra money.
Oh, that's really cool. As you look back and reflect, what were some of the significant things that you did to reduce expenses or save money? Was there anything that you cut that stands out?
Ooh, that's a good question too. I would say, when I was single, you can live like a starving college student. It's so much different when you're single because you have complete autonomy. So when we were married, those 2 years that we were paying off that debt, we sacrificed a lot. So we didn't go on vacations. We didn't, we really didn't go out to eat, maybe hardly at all, or at least nothing more than like, Chick-fil-A or like a fast food. We didn't go to any like real expensive sit down restaurants. So we made a lot of sacrifices like that. Now we go on nice vacations because we can afford to do it. Like we took the kids to Disney World this year for the first time and paid cash for that. That's something we would have never, even thought about doing because that would have just put us into more debt at the time. So those are probably some of the bigger things. We just, the grocery store, that's always a huge, battle, cutting the grocery bill. We got into that was nothing. We got into couponing. And then, my wife got into the Ibotta app, which is like a cashback app for groceries buying as well. So we did stuff like that just to kind of cut down the bill as much as we could, the expenses.
That's so interesting. Yeah. So it was a lot of small things. But from what I'm hearing in your story is that you didn't let your lifestyle inflate to the point where you felt like you needed to cut things. You kept it very modest while you were in debt so that when you really went hard to pay it off, you didn't feel like there was a lot you needed to give up, and then had the freedom once the debt was paid off to start building some of that lifestyle.
Right. That's such a good point because I notice this just from friends or observations I make. It seems to be a lot harder for people to downsize, right? Than, to ups, because you're used to a certain lifestyle, like you said, and for me, that wasn't the case for me at all. So it really wasn't, those changes weren't difficult for me personally to make. I'm a very frugal person already. People have called me every name in the book, cheap, frugal, whatever. I like to use the word resourceful. But yeah, it was not difficult for me because we weren't selling a house and going to a 1-bedroom condo, or we weren't selling a $50,000 car and buying a $5,000, used Honda Accord. We didn't do anything like that because we weren't at that position in life yet, I guess, to have those more, I guess, valuable possessions.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how different people can go about the debt payoff journey. It looks different for all of us. A lot of times we'll hear from people who are just starting out in their careers and maybe single. It can be easier to focus on increasing income to pay down the debt. Whereas for families, a lot of times we'll hear it might be more advantageous to look at cutting expenses and reducing some of the various bills that have been accrued in order to focus on debt payoff. And of course, we want to blend the two. We want both to be happening, but to be able to identify what's going to work best for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say real quick on that, you get to a point where I remember that when I was single, like you can only cut so much. Like you can cut cable. Like there's plenty of things that you can cut that you don't need, right? You do the needs versus wants analysis. You can cut that. That was a point where I got really depressed and got really, I was like, okay, I've cut everything that I can possibly cut, besides not eating. And then, I still didn't have extra money, right? So then at that point, that's when you got to look to that. Hey, what can I do to earn extra income? Can I pick up a part-time job? Can I do, all the things that I just mentioned? That's when you start, hey, how can I, boost my income? That's when you get to that point.
Yeah. So what would you say with this wisdom that you've gained to somebody who is starting out on the journey, whether they're just starting out in their career, or maybe they're single, hoping to get married and pay off debt with a spouse? What would you say to someone that was in your position when you started?
I would say that, For me, there's a famous quote in the Bible. I'm going to paraphrase it. It's something to the effect that when you are in debt, you are the slave to the lender. Like you're the borrower and you're the slave to the lender. So you never want to be in that position if you can avoid it. So I would just say, do whatever you can to avoid debt or minimize debt. Do your due diligence. If you're making a big purchase, a new car or a house or whatever it may be, do you need, it goes back to the needs versus wants. Do you need a $500,000 house, or can you be okay in a $250,000 house? You know what I'm saying? Or do you really need a $45,000 car, or can you get to work in a $20,000 car and just the same? So it kind of comes down to, making wise decisions and choices, and a lot of it's behavior modification as well. And it's kind of changing your mindset. And that takes time. Like you don't just wake up and you flip a switch and your mindset's changed. That's something that has to be developed over time. What that famous saying, it takes 30 days to develop a habit. You do the same thing for 30 days, I think it is. And then you develop the habit of it. So it's kind of like that. It's like each day you do 1%, and then, after, a couple months, your mindset starts shifting. And then you start thinking, 2 months ago, I would have just made that impulse purchase. Now I'm thinking about, let me go sleep on that. Let me think about that. Do I really need it? Can I find it somewhere for cheaper? Stuff like that. So that's kind of what I would say is just, be mindful, be smart, everyone hates to hear this. Live on a budget. People hate that word. A budget. I can't do that. But most people have to live off of a budget. To control their spending and their expenses.
Yes, some great realizations and some tips and pointers for others along this journey. And your journey has come to an end twice. You paid off debt 2 different times. Hopefully it's all gone, and it sounds like you're never going back. And so let's look to celebrate. How do you want to do that? What is your flavor of celebration today?
Okay. We'll just do a little cheer. How about 1, 2, 3, we're debt free. Thank you.
1, 2, 3, debt free. Woo!
So yeah, we're truly, grateful, and we're, truly appreciative of, everybody who's helped us along the way. And I don't mean that people gave us money. I mean, people that have, supported us and, not made fun of us, because it was tough. Like there are people like, everyone's going out to dinner tonight. Well, We'll see you tomorrow. We can't make it. So, that's tough because there's social aspects of saying no to spending money. But that's cool. Yeah, that's awesome, man. It's a good feeling, and anybody can do this. It's just a mindset.
I'm so glad to hear that story again, because it brings up spoiler alert, when we were doing the interview and he talked about looking for change, like on the beach, like using their vacation to make money, I cringed a little. I was like, I don't know if I want to share. I don't know if this is what Debt Free Stories is about. There was just...
Well, no, they were getting cans.
Cans, yes.
Picking up cans for to money. Then, turn it in.
But it was a little cringy for me. But I
think for him too. I think that's why he was saying, this is so crazy.
Yes. But we did the same thing. Travis and I, when we were paying off, we didn't look for cans on the beach, but I do think it's nice now that I've had some perspective, not to make money, but to clean up the beach. That's why I would pick up cans, not to make money.
Depending on where you live, you can get, I think, up to 10 cents a can, which isn't not, but I have heard of people who do make this a little bit of a side hobby, or they'll get recyclables from other people, particularly Maine. I think they are the state who gives the most money back. So it's one of those, if you know, you know.
Yeah.
If you're in these areas, you know how much you can earn back.
I interviewed somebody who their job was picking up garbage places. So he would, if there were cans in the garbage, and I don't think he was like a garbage man. Like, I don't know I think maybe he was like a cleaner. He would take all the cans out of the garbage as he got them. And then he would go with bags and bags of cans, and he would make extra money that way.
Yeah.
Like, so it wasn't like a conflict of interest where he was working.
Right.
That is a really good idea, I think. I would rather do that. If the cans came to me, I would transition them to money.
And I can appreciate really trying to think through what else can we do? I don't want it, and he doesn't either. I appreciated his encouragement to not make it backbreaking. But as we noticed, they paid off $60,000 of debt. At the time, only living off of an annual household income of $60,000. And when your debt is equal to or more than what you bring in annually, that can feel very overwhelming. And when there's only so much that you can cut, you start to look for what are other ways that we can earn. And that's going to depend on whether or not you want to get out of the field of work that you're in. So while no, I don't think picking up cans on the side is super lucrative, but I can appreciate how do I get creative with paying this down. I also so they paid off, as they said, debt twice, or he did. He became debt free as a 20-something, and then again, once married as a couple, had much more debt as a couple to be paying off than he had as a single person. But it did stand out to me, at least the first time around, the podcasts and the books and the learning as being really useful in understanding strategy and what is the best way to save money, earn more. I mean, it's one of the reasons we're doing this podcast, but I can say for myself as well, it's these types of resources that we can all be digging into and learning what we don't know. We don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
And so the opportunity to hear from others and be educated on the areas that we are not expert in can really help in this process. I can't stress resources enough when we've got a big goal in front of us.
Yeah. And I really appreciated that he didn't just sit on all that knowledge and get paralyzed by it, but really just took small steps all the time to be trying new things. And if it didn't work, it didn't work. You know, like they didn't vacation and pick up cans twice, right? Like they just took the information, acted on it as was, feasible for them as a couple with no kids. And then when it didn't work, they laid it down and they picked something else up. So I think so often we're paralyzed by knowledge. We just keep accumulating knowledge and then don't act on it. So pick up your knowledge, but don't be paralyzed by it.
Well, and on the flip side of that, I think he described having been quite anxious about getting the debt gone. Yeah. And we talked about the debt payoff hangover that I know you experienced too, Jen. You paid off, even a little bit more than they did in 2 years.
$78,000, making around $80,000. So
right, very similar situation in 2 years. And both of you described wishing that you hadn't gone so aggressively at the goal. And I loved that piece of advice because I do think there is a lot of voice out there saying, get it gone as fast as possible, eat the ramen, don't go out, don't enjoy family life, you are indebted. And I appreciated this message of, I wished I didn't have as much anxiety around this. I wish I could have leaned in a little bit more to the fact that I had a good plan in place and I was implementing on that plan. And I could have taken it at a bit more manageable of a pace. And you have said the same thing, that being you don't have to be as aggressive with it if it is becoming backbreaking to you. So I'm just repeating that again because I think it's a valuable message. I know how anxiety producing debt feels, but it is another boulder on top of us when we feel as though we can't do anything, we can't live our lives until this is gone.
Yeah. Ultimately, you can pay off debt as fast as you want. Paying it off fast is great. Being really aggressive is great. Focusing on one goal at a time gets you to that goal faster. And if that one goal is debt payoff, that's great. Doing it fast is great. It's the anxiety piece, is that when that aggressive goal behavior is fueled by anxiety and the feeling like I'm a failure for having this debt. I need to get out of it as quickly as possible so I'm not a failure anymore. That is what is bad. And that is what creates the debt payoff hangover. That's what makes the goal not worth achieving. So when you're going at it, go aggressive, go all in. That's great. But also know when your seasons shift, when your finances shift, if you need to shift, embrace that. Embrace that and do it with as little anxiety, like inducing feelings and behaviors as possible.
So we asked them for an update on where things are at since we last spoke, and they said, we had another kid. Woo! Which Jason did say that they were pregnant at the time. So they did have another boy. They have 3 boys now. They sent a beautiful picture of their family. So adorable. Yay. And so they said, prior to having our 3rd child, the only debt we had was our mortgage. And we were a 1-car, 1-income household. However, now that we've expanded our family, we had to buy a bigger car and purchased a 2016 Honda Pilot. As a result, we now have a car payment. Boo. He said boo. We did not say boo.
Yeah,
that was his.
We have car loans, both of us. So
to go along with our house payment. But coincidentally, both car and house debts are scheduled to be paid off in less than 3 years, at which point we will be 100% debt free. While we have 2 cars now, we are still a 1-income household as my wife is a stay-at-home mom. This is lovely update. And I so appreciate that you were willing to send us in this update, because I know how it can feel to have achieved debt freedom. And then it can feel a little, you can feel a bit of shame to say, yes, I did have to take on debt again because this is what's happening to our family. But I also know the realities of life seasons and life circumstances. And it sounds like it's not reasonable for where you live and the size of your family to only have 1 car. But I also want to point out that it sounds like you bought a reasonable car. 2016, you bought this within the past year and a half. So you're getting an older car that fits the needs of your family, and it will be paid off soon. So we're here for it. We love this update. We love the growing family. We love the intentional spending, the intentional, even debt decisions, but then also the plan to not have those things be barriers, dark clouds hanging and lingering over you. So well done, Jason and fam. And you know what else it's not a dark cloud.
It's never
hanging
shameful.
Over. Never
Absolutely
shameful.
never shameful.
The bill of the week.
That's right. It's time for the best minute of your entire week. Maybe a baby was born and his name is William. Maybe you paid off your mortgage. Maybe your car died and you're happy to not have to pay that bill anymore. Duck bills, Buffalo Bills, Bill Clinton. This is the bill of the week.
Hello, Frugal friends. My name is Maggie. My bill of the week is long overdue to you. A couple years ago, I worked for a school district in Northern California as a school counselor and was asked to do illegal and unethical things or be considered insubordinate and possibly lose my job. Rather than work in a hostile environment where Principal Bill and his VP emotionally harassed me daily, I worked with my union and got unpaid medical leave for the remainder of the year, approximately 8 months. Since I was at home and no longer had to commute 80 miles round trip, I saved approximately $3,500 on gas that year. Now I commute 4 miles round trip, but usually walk or ride my bike to work and only pay about $35 a month on gas. Suffice to say, I quit that job and got out of a toxic environment. I'm closer to home, I'm saving on gas, I'm saving time, and my physical and mental health has improved immensely. Thanks to my union and Frugal friends and community for all your support. I could not have done it without you.
Oh, wow, Maggie. That's amazing. That's awesome. That is definitely the mental health leave is something that most employees are entitled to. And so definitely something, not just in a union, but yeah, that's amazing that you were able to take advantage of that.
I am really sorry to hear about this environment and culture that you were found in. It really debunks my personal theory that all Bills are amazing. All people named Bill. I am so disappointed to hear about the unethical practices of your boss named Bill.
He's the exception, not the rule.
Outlier. Yes. What a shame. But I am so glad that you were able to get out of that situation and you're finding something that is better for you all around. And I would venture to say you cited it as the result of your union, as a result of resources like the Frugal Friends podcast. I think optionality in our work is one of the benefits of not just becoming debt free, but also being intentional about our spending so that we can make some of these shifts that we need to make when they are going to be the best, most important decision for us. So thanks so much, Maggie. If you all are listening, you have a bill that you want to share, if it's about finding a better work environment or saving money, or you are a Bill who wants to redeem the name. Yes. Frugalfriendspodcast.com/Bill. Leave us your bill. We can't wait for it.
I'm Andrea Gunning, host of the all-new podcast, There and Gone. It's a real-life story of two people who left a crowded Philadelphia bar, walked to their truck, and vanished.
Nobody hears anything. Nobody sees anything.
Did they run away? Was it an accident? Or were they murdered?
A truck and two people just don't disappear.
The FBI called it murder for hire.
It was definitely murder for hire for Danielle, not for Richard.
He's your son, and in your eyes, he's innocent. But in my eyes, he's just some guy my sister was with.
In this series, I dig into my own investigation to find answers for the families and get justice for Richard and Danielle. All that they know. Listen to There and Gone South Street on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
We all know what that music means. Is somebody getting coronated? No, it's time for the Olympics in Paris.
The opening ceremony for the 2024 Paris Games is coming on July 26.
Who are these athletes? When are the games they're playing? You may be looking for the sports experts to answer those questions, but we're not that.
Well, what are we? We're two guys. I'm Matt Rogers.
And I'm Bowen Yang.
And we're doing an Olympics podcast? Yeah. We're hosting the Two Guys, Five Rings podcast.
You get the two guys, us, to start every podcast, then the five rings come after.
Watch every moment of the 2024 Paris Olympics beginning July 26th on NBC and Peacock. And for the first time, you can stream the 2024 Paris Games on the iHeartRadio app. And listen to Two Guys, Five Rings on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Babe.
Yeah, babe.
Do you think they can hear us?
Yeah, those are mics.
Guys, we are back. We are so excited. It is season 2 of your favorite New Girl Rewatch podcast. We have got a new season, we got a new name, and we got a brand new episode every week starting July 2nd.
Yeah, I am so excited for you folks to check out this mess around. When I say it's going to get weird, I mean, it's going to get
Just
weird.
okay, save it for the show.
Okay, that's probably for the best.
We've got some of your favorite people from the New Girl universe. We've got the creator and showrunner, Liz Merriweather. We got the Max Greenfield, Olivia Munn.
We also have some of your least favorites, like Jake Johnson.
Lamorne.
No, I'm just saying, like, if you're listing off your favorites, like, he's still a favorite. He just, Hannah, what's up?
We do have Jake Johnson, though.
Yeah. Listen to the mess around on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
And now it's time for the lightning round.
All right, what's a crazy in parentheses, or just a side hustle you've tried before but won't be doing again? And hands down, mine is renovating anything. We bought an RV and we renovated that to resell. We just recouped like our effort and our materials. So we didn't make really any money.
Wait, from the RV?
The RV.
Oh, not like you just now did, but
No.
at the time. It was a wash.
Selling it. I was literally selling it from my hospital bed after just giving birth to my son because I hated that thing so much. I was so passionate about being rid of it that I was doing like paperwork from my phone in my hospital bed. I hated that. And then also renovating this house because we've been viewing this renovation as a side hustle. We bought a fixer-upper 2 years ago. We have turned it into a duplex, renovated all in, eventually will sell it for a profit. So this has our renovations. We have been considering them a side hustle. It's just the payment will be delayed. Still won't do it again. Nope. Done. Not worth it.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I mean, I don't know if you said never. Definitely don't say never because
I don't ever want to do it again.
You are still fresh in the realities of like you are just now coming to the end of renovation, but give it another year or two and you just don't know.
I need everyone here, especially you, Jill,
to keep you from ever renovating again. Okay.
Unless it's okay. So the caveat would be if it's our dream home and it just needs some paint, like it needs light stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not moving walls. I'm not redoing flooring.
Yeah.
Like I'm not doing it. Maybe replacing counters because I don't have to do that.
Yeah.
Somebody brings in the counter.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
Or you have the money to pay somebody else to renovate.
Yeah.
I'd live in a renovation that someone else is doing.
Absolutely would not do that again.
I definitely would. Doing it yourself and living in it. Oof.
Well, I wouldn't do it myself or I wouldn't live in it if I'm doing it or hiring.
Okay. Okay. I hear you. We all hear you.
I'm too old.
We're tired.
I'm tired.
I wish it was retired. I wish we were retired, but we're tired.
Tired.
Mm-hmm.
I love those shirts that say retired, and I'm just going to get one that says tired.
We are tired is the same thing as
we tired.
We retired.
Yeah. Instead of retired, I say we tired. Travis and I were talking about that last night. We were just looking
retiring?
No, being tired.
Tired, yeah.
Because it was Kai's birthday yesterday, and I was like, we've been parents for 5 years.
Yeah.
I am so tired. Man, I never knew exhaustion before this. I would say we were tired when we were paying off debt, working all those side hustles.
Yeah.
We were tired. I got shingles. Like I was tired. I've never.
But it's not waking
like
you
this.
up in the middle of the night. Like renovations don't wake you up in the night. They might keep you up all hours of the night, but
yeah.
I personally would do any of my side hustles again. I mean, most of my side hustles are working with my hands, and I do love doing that. So I would do any of them over again, except for maybe this one. Although if I had, just because I don't think I'm going to ever have the opportunity to.
This is a weird one.
So Eric used to be an electrician as his day job and sometimes night job. And so he would often have tons of leftover wire from these jobs, but none of them were long enough to do long runs of electrical work. And so he would just have this surplus of wire, and electrical wire has copper in it. Copper is worth money. So I would strip all of the plastic off of this extra. I was desperate. Like I was Jason in this episode digging for cans on the beach.
This wire was your can. Yeah.
I think that there can be this mindset of what else is there out there? And I think resources help to now know there actually were things that I could have done that made more money for the time and effort that I was putting in. But at the time I was in my 20s and this was right in front of me. And it was cathartic working the social work job that I was working. I would just sit on the back porch with a utility knife and strip off the plastic of the copper wires. And then we'd just like gather buckets of copper wires. Once we had a surplus, we would take it to like a salvage yard and they'd pay per pound. And we'd it took a while to accumulate, but every time we'd go, it'd be a couple $100. And that was our date night money in the midst of debt payoff.
Nice.
it took a long time. I really don't think I'm going to have wire to strip or the time to strip wire. But
yeah, no.
That was a weird one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What a great, like, if you're got a high schooler or something that wants money for their cell phone bill.
Any electrician does know about this.
Yeah.
Like,
just hand them off.
whether or not they're doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Just if their electrician's not doing it, be like, hey, give us your extra wire. I've got a 16-year-old who wants a new iPhone.
Yep.
There you go.
And I want him off the video games.
Yes.
Just sitting there,
right?
Stripping wire. Well, thanks so much, everyone, for listening. If you have a weird side hustle that you ended up doing to become debt-free, or you're still in your debt payoff journey, leave that for us in a rating or review like this one. And they didn't say their side hustle, but we're just asking for reviews. Kind reviews like this one from Christy 118, who said, fun, 5 stars. I like this a lot. And second, the review of the girl who said, thanks for not making me do 6 side hustles. I'm a social worker and mentally that is more than enough. Though I do have a couple side hustles too. Still practical advice and fun to listen to.
Oh, Christy.
Yeah. You do not have to strip wire or get cans on the beach. You
or
can
renovate an RV.
You could start a business.
You could do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just out here doing the Lord's work as a social worker, you know?
Yes,
So you do
I feel you, Christy 118. Thanks for your kind review.
Yes. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to leave a rating and review. It helps potential new listeners know what our show is all about. And you can even echo somebody else's review like Christy did.
See you next time.
Bye. Frugal Friends is produced by Eric Sirianni. So this episode comes out July 5th. So July 4th was theoretically yesterday. And so what do you think, what do you want to do for July 4th? What is your favorite?
What do I want to say that I had done?
Like to spend July 4th?
I like to spend it outside near water with friends.
How involved are fireworks?
I forgot about them. So might be, might not be. I think I've had years where there's awesome fireworks opportunities and other times where I don't care if I miss them.
I like to spend them just with fireworks.
Wow.
Just fireworks. I love to look at them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to light them off.
What's the best fireworks show around town?
Disney. But that's every night.
Are you going to go?
No. But they do have a special fireworks show.
I bet.
For 4th of July. But I think no 4th of July can compare to Disney's every night.
The best fireworks show that I ever saw was at Showtime Speedway, which is an amateur racetrack near us right here in Florida. You guessed it. It is in Florida. It has a figure 8 track on it where they will race buses, school buses. The exact size of a school bus will race other school buses in figure 8s. And I went on New Year's, because New Year's is another time that they do fireworks. And they did a fireworks show off the bed of a truck just about 50 yards away from where I was sitting. I could see, you know how often when you go to a fireworks show, you only see the fireworks in the air. You don't actually see where they're shooting off from. This wasn't like that. I saw the boxes in the bed of the truck that the fireworks were coming out of. And then I saw them in the air as well. And that was the best. That was wild.
If you are looking for Florida Man and you cannot find him.
Showtime
Speedway is where he is at. I guarantee you that is where Florida Man is at.
You pay cash tickets. You sit wherever you want. You can even bring in your own cooler of food and beverages.
Watch school buses do figure 8s.
And fireworks out of the bed of a truck. I'm going to here we go. I'm going to check if Showtime Speedway is having a 4th of July shenanigan.
Guys, we are back. We are so excited. It is season 2 of your favorite New Girl Rewatch podcast. We have got a new season. We got a new name. We have got some of your favorite people from the New Girl universe. We've got the creator and showrunner, Liz Merriweather. We got the Max Greenfield, Olivia Munn.
We also have some of your least favorites, like Jake Johnson.
Lamorne.
Hannah, what's up?
We do have Jake Johnson, though.
Yeah. Listen to The Mess Around on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Andrea Gunning, host of the all-new podcast, There and Gone. It's a real-life story of two people who left a crowded Philadelphia bar, walked to their truck, and vanished.
A truck and two people just don't disappear.
The FBI called it murder for hire. But which victim was the intended target and why? Listen to There and Gone South Street on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
We all know what that music means. It's time for the Olympics in Paris.
I'm Matt Rogers.
And I'm Bowen Yang.
And we're doing an Olympics podcast? Yeah. We're hosting the Two Guys, Five Rings podcast. Watch every moment of the 2024 Paris Olympics beginning July 26th on NBC and Peacock. And for the first time, you can stream the 2024 Paris Games on the iHeartRadio app. And listen to Two Guys, Five Rings on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.